Yeah.
All right, well, good evening, everyone. Today was September 9/11, 2020. This is a regular scheduled council meeting, and as always, we'll start with the well, before we even go there, we'll do a roll call, right? Because we are talking about it.
Councilor Davitt?
Yes.
Councilor Haas? Here. Councilor Leonard is absent. Councilor Pelletier?
Here.
Councilor Schaefer?
Here.
Councilor Sprague?
Here.
Councilor Campbell?
Here.
Councilor Yakabaga? And Councilor Poyer?
Here. All right. And as long as you're starting the pledge of allegiance, Reese Perkins, also happens to be the planning board. You want to allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Perkins. This is the portion of the meeting set aside for comments from the public. If there's anyone in the audience wishing to speak on a subject other than what's on the regular agenda, they may do so by coming to the podium, giving their name and address, and stating their message. Any inappropriate or offensive remarks, they will be removed, and the council chair will have discretion over the time allowed for comment. And as I've been doing since, I believe it's been since December, 3 minutes. On Zoom, the public may be recognized to speak by the hand.
I'm sorry, Rick, can we hold just for a second?
We've got
It should be good.
Am I starting over from ground zero? Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Do we have to do another roll call vote?
Oh, I heard it.
Yeah. That's a good sign.
Yeah. And they were.
There it goes.
All right. Probably. We're gonna start off again, and we'll start off with a roll call vote.
Councilor Davitt?
Here. Here.
We can't hear.
I'm unmuted on my end. You can't hear me?
Can't hear you. You want to give a thumbs up? Thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
Councilor Haas?
Here.
Councilor Pelletier?
Here.
Councilor Schaefer?
Here.
Councilor Sprague?
Here.
Councilor Campbell?
Here.
Councilor Yakabaga?
Here.
Councilor Poyer?
Here. All right. So this is the portion of the meeting set aside for comments from the public. If there's anyone in the audience wishing to speak on a subject other than what's on the regular agenda, they may do so by coming to the podium, giving their name and address, and stating the message. Any inappropriate or offensive remarks, they may be removed, and the council chair will have discretion over the time allowed for comments. But as I've been doing since December, I'm limiting it to 3 minutes. On Zoom, the public may be recognized to speak by the hand wave function or on the phone by pressing *9. With that, I will open up the public comment.
Good evening. My name is Michael Norton, 83 Elm Street, Unit C, Bangor, Maine. Does Bangor have a sister city in United Kingdom? Yet? Like a partnership across the North Atlantic? No?
I don't know.
Okay. I would just like to suggest one because I can count on my two hands the number of British people I've met in my life. I've met a professor, another artist in residence in college, a classmate, another classmate's parents, that's 5. And then I moved out to California. I met a couple at a restaurant and bar 2 different nights. So that's 7. And I met another lady I worked with at a travel agency from Britain. But I and other people have an extraordinary amount of interest in the culture and the people and the business culture in the UK. And I think today's a great day to just suggest to the city that maybe they have more counties than Ohio. We could suggest like a city partnership with one of their little Bangors in the UK and think not only of the forefathers of the United States, but the foreparents too, which is what the UK was before the revolution here. So if we forget them, we're going to end up teaching nonsense in cotton gins in schools, and that's not good. We need to keep advancing and moving forward so we don't get bogged down in health crisis and opioid crisis and homeless crisis, economic crisis, pandemic crisis, sexual gender differentiation crisis. Where's television and SAG-AFTRA crisis, strikes and writers' strikes? Baloney. I need to meet more British people. I think Bangor does too. Let's have some business in that regard. We're all going to end up with a king's tax if we don't. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? I think on Zoom we have is it Jim Addison? Jim Atkinson. Coming over.
Yes, hi. Jim here. 740 Chestnut Street, apartment 4. Is it white privilege to have your women raped and be told they deserved it, to have your children groomed by homosexual Jews, to be murdered in your own homes by deranged blacks, to have your borders overrun by invaders?
Nope, you just cut him off. Cody.
All right, who's next?
Handsome truth.
Handsome Truth? Truth.
Yeah, handsome truth here. GDLflyers.com. The Jews did 9/11.
Nope, Cody. Dennis.
Dennis Radar? Radar?
Shares the name with a serial killer.
Every aspect.
Cut him right off. Okay, and
Shane
Shane Kinley.
McKinnon.
Every aspect of 9/11 is Jewish.
Take him off.
Okay.
No other hand.
Shane McKinley?
No, we already did him.
no.
Yep, they're all done.
They're all done. Bye.
Hello?
Nope.
Jews did 9/11.
Nope, take him off.
I think we're done.
Yep.
Anyone in this room, as far as public comment goes? Councilor Pelletier?
I would just like to respond to that and say the city council will not entertain any sort of hate speech, whether you're online, whether you're in person, whether you're sending flyers to city council members. You are barking up the wrong tree. That's not what this council stands for. So take it somewhere else.
All right, that being said, consent agenda.
Minutes of Bangor City Council regular meeting of August 28th, 2023, Business and Economic Development Committee meeting of August 21st, 2023, and Finance Committee meetings of June 5th, 2023, June 21st, 2023, July 3rd, 2023, July 10th, 2023, July 17th, 2023, August 8th, 2023, and August 21st, 2023. liquor license renewals, application for liquor license renewal, malt wine spirits with Global Spectrum LP, doing business as Cross Insurance Center, 515 Main Street. Application for liquor license renewal, malt wine spirits of Victor Enterprises 6 Inc., doing business as Buffalo Wild Wings, 461 Stillwater Avenue. Application for liquor license renewal, malt wine spirits of Pepper Dining Inc., doing business as Chili's Grill and Bar, 638 Stillwater Avenue. Application for liquor license renewal, malt wine spirits of Las Palapas Mexican Restaurant LLC, doing business as Las Palapas Mexican Restaurant, 8 Bangor Mall Boulevard. Application for liquor license renewal, malt wine spirits of 81 Park Street LLC, doing business as the Tirity, 81 Park Street. 23-266 order authorizing the execution of a municipal quitclaim deed for real estate located at 117 Phillips Street. 23-267 order authorizing contract with CNC Lynch Excavating LLC for parking lot improvements at Essex Woods in the amount of $191,100. 23-268 order authorizing contract with DP Porter Contractors CEM for renovations at Central Fire Station in the amount of $104,296. 23-269 order authorizing contract with Paul Designs Project for the Central Kitchen Design Services in an amount not to exceed $375,000.
I move passage of the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Seeing no objections, roll call vote.
Councilor Davitt.
Yes.
Councilor Hawes.
Yes.
Councilor Pelletier.
Yes.
Councilor Schaefer.
Yes.
Councilor Spring.
Yes.
Councilor Trumbull.
Yes.
Councilor Yakubaga.
Yes.
Councilor Fournier.
Yes,
8 yes, 0 no.
the consent agenda has passage. Referrals to committee and first reading.
23-270 ordinance amending chapter 165 land development code district map to rezone property located on Ohio Street from urban residence 1 district URD 1 and rural residence and agricultural district RRNA to high density residential HDR. First reading in the Borough Planning Board meeting on September 19th, 2023. 23-271 resolved accepting and appropriating $61,000 for additional design and engineering costs from the National Guard Bureau and the Maine Air National Guard for the runway rehabilitation project at Bangor International Airport. First reading.
I move these items be referred.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. No objections, roll call vote.
Councilor Davitt.
Yes.
Councilor Hawes.
Yes.
Councilor Pelletier.
Yes.
Councilor Schaefer.
Yes.
Councilor Spring.
Yes.
Councilor Trumbull.
Yes.
Councilor Yakubaga.
Yes.
Councilor Fournier.
Yes,
8 yes, 0 no.
these referrals.
The items have been referred.
Yes. These items have been referred. Unfinished business.
23-246 ordinance under chapter 165 land development code attachment 2 schedule A urban developed area by increasing the maximum height in the multifamily and service district MNSD. Councilor Davitt.
Thank you. I move passage of ordinance 23-246.
Second.
Thank you. I'm going to read the summary and then I'm going to ask our city planner to come up and answer any questions. And as it was something that they had, not city planner, sorry, Ann, Community and Economic Development Director, as it was something where it didn't pass in the planning board. With that said, this ordinance will amend chapter 165 land development code attachment 2 schedule A urban developed area by increasing the maximum height in the multifamily and service district MNSD. The proposed change would increase the maximum allowable building height in the MNSD district from 45 feet, approximately 4 stories, to 60 feet, approximately 5 stories. This is the same height proposed for high density residential in the SNPS and GC and S zones, the ordinance for which was recently adopted. This increase in height allowance allow affordable housing projects in this district to be more financially feasible and could allow for more units on MNSD lots. This ordinance would be in keeping with the City Council's policy to create more housing more feasible. Additionally, the 2022 comprehensive plan directs the city to revise zoning regulations as needed to support the development of housing within the growth boundary and to remove barriers to development for a variety of housing types. This item was reviewed and recommended ought not to pass with a vote of 5-2 by the planning board at its meeting on August 15th, 2023. And then if Anne could come up and just sort of give maybe a summary of the
Who's
planning
on our
board.
well?
Awesome. Thank you. I just wanted to articulate it, I guess.
You could repeat the question, just to
I think it's really just to review
the concerns.
the concerns from the planning board.
Yeah,
So, I know who you were.
oh, yes,
And most of the
okay.
council-
I know it. It's such a bad habit that I don't do that. This is Ann Krieg, and I'm the Director of Community and Economic Development. So, the multifamily and service district is it is a funny district. It's almost like the government district, because it's sort of speckled around the city. It's not an area per se. I mean, there are some pockets of multifamily that are around each other, but a lot of it is just kind of speckled throughout your residential neighborhoods. So there was a concern by some planning board members and members of the public that, this height would really create, a shadow issues in the neighborhood, and, it's just too high for some of the neighborhoods. And so that was probably the main thrust. The chair of the planning board is here this evening that can also add to this, but I mean, that was the main thrust for the reason why it was voted up not to pass.
Questions for Ann? Councilor Gavin?
Thank you, Anne. And just to follow up on that, is there a way that, I think I had read, and I apologize because I read it at the last meeting, if there was things that were proposed that could address this? Obviously, you can't make them shorter when you're making them taller, but if there were, I think conditional use was maybe something that had been put forward, but I could be misremembering that. But if there's ways that could be addressed so that this could go forward in some form, or is it kind of a hard no, given the concerns?
Right, on this particular, I mean, we can't make changes now, but staff could go back if the council or the planning board wanted to, and look at things like maybe it's on a larger lot, a greater setback for that height, or, a conditional use permit for that extended height. I mean, there are other things we can do. It's offered here as of right. So somebody can come in, get a normal land development permit from the planning board and be able to get that height. So there are some things we could do if the council and the planning board still want to pursue the ability to have a greater height in multifamily. You could
Councilor
do
Schaefer?
Thank you. I would support setting this back to have it be looked at as a conditional use and to really taken into impact the impact of the location where a building would be proposed. So I think there are some places where the height really wouldn't be an issue and some where it might be an issue. So I would love to see this come back to us with some options for it being a conditional use,
Okay.
revisiting it.
Maybe some other dimensional requirements.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Questions of Ann?
I had similar comments. If we can revisit this, the height, maybe adjustments to the height, placement of those lots, I think it's worth to give it a shot again.
Okay.
Going to ask the chair of the planning board to come up if you wanted to speak as well.
Good evening, councilors and staff, and Chair Fornia, Reese Perkins, Chair of the Planning Board. I agree with Director Krieg. I think the largest concern we had, I happened to look at a couple of properties in particular. One was on Larkin and one was on Walter, just a few houses up from Main Street. And, these homes, many of them are older URD1 single family homes that have sort of advanced in age and size as time has gone on. Sometimes the houses around them haven't. And if you can imagine 60 feet, the Bangor House downtown at the corner of Union and Main Street is about that. And so if you have a house, as Director Krieg pointed out, that's sort of in the middle of other URD1 properties, and all of a sudden one property is proposing going up to 60 feet. boy, it dwarfs, the properties around it. And some of the folks that we heard from, in the planning meeting were concerned about, light, being blocked, sunlight, lack of sunlight, their view being damaged. We already allow 45 feet, which is quite high. I don't see this this proposed change, making a large difference in housing. I would love to see us do anything we can to increase housing. I don't see this, making much of a difference. We did talk about one other thought as far as a possible adjustment to this proposal, and that was keeping it on main arterials, I believe is how we would say that, so that sort of keeps it focused in areas where it will be more typical of the buildings around it. I think that's it, unless somebody has any questions. It was 5-2 votes, so we were fairly sure in our decision.
How did you vote?
I voted against it. Thank you.
Councilor
Yes.
Yakabaga?
I have a question, please. So even with the adjustments to heights or place of the building, you still think it should not go through?
No, I would be in favor of it if it was changed.
Location wise and height wise.
My preference is to see it restricted to main arterials.
Just to me, yeah, so.
But Director Krieg has suggested possibly some other things such as size of lot,
Yeah,
things like that. I'm willing to listen to other
Okay, good.
alternatives.
So, yeah, okay, that's what I wanted to hear. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Councilor Trumbull?
Just a question, and so if we reject this time, does it go back to BED before it goes back to us to refer it back to the planning board?
Yeah, because of,
Talk about this suggestion.
yeah, the sensitivity to the changes, I
Right.
probably would go back to BED before coming back
Right.
here.
Great, thanks. So I just want to comment, I will plan to vote against this. Obviously, it was a 5-2 vote. It wasn't close. The process is kind of rigid. It's unfortunate the planning board can't, amend these things, but they have to vote up or down, as do we. We have to vote up or down. We can't amend it. So we'll just hopefully vote this down tonight and we can incorporate some of the suggested changes. Thank you. Is there, it's on a motion. on the
There
floor
has
now.
been a motion.
Okay, thank you.
Has been seconded. Any other comments? Councilor Schaefer?
Just to clarify, we would be voting no, we do not want to approve this ordinance to send it back, right? I always get confused on these. Okay.
Yeah.
Wasn't the motion on the floor to pass it?
Pass it.
Right. So we would vote no,
If you vote no, that's
it will not pass.
correct.
That's all I need to know. Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? We have a motion, we have a second, we'll do a roll call vote.
Councilor Devitt?
I apologize. I just reversed in my head. Is a no vote to, a yes vote would uphold the planning board?
No.
First, okay, I had it right then. No.
Councilor Hawes,
No.
Councilor Pelletier,
No,
Councilor Schaefer,
No.
Councilor Spring,
No.
Councilor Trumbull,
No.
Councilor Yakabaga,
No,
Councilor Poyer,
Yes.
1 yes, 7 no.
I'm doing that. I'll do it.
You do have to.
Oh, the motion did not pass.
23-258 ordinance amending chapter 165 land development code by updating the allowed number of dwelling units in residential zones to comply with LD 2003. Councilor Spring.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I move passage of ordinance 23-258.
Second.
This ordinance would update the city land development code to comply with the requirements of the state law known as LD 2003. This update has the effect of allowing more dwelling units in the residential zones throughout the city. These changes align with city council policy to create residential units where feasible and with the 2022 comprehensive plan, which suggests that the city update the land development code to comply with LD 2003. This item was reviewed and voted on. I believe there's a correction needs to be made here. It was voted on to pass with a vote of 6 in favor and 1 against by the planning board on September 5th, 2023. I suggest that given the complexity of this item, that we ask Ann Krieg to come back again and clarify why we are needing to comply with the state law here and what the issues were around this ordinance.
Sure. Ann Krieg, Director of Community and Economic Development. LD 2003 is a state law that has been passed. It, for city forms of government, it goes into effect January 1st, 2024. For town meeting forms of government, it goes into effect July 1, 2024. It's not unlike other state laws that have directed us to change our zoning. Those of you that followed local government in the early 90s will remember the shoreland zoning that went in. And that was equally as difficult. It's unusual for the state to tell local communities how to do zoning, because we're used to having just what we had just a few minutes ago, a debate on whether or not a zoning amendment should pass. Where this is a little bit more difficult because it is a state law, and it is making, not unlike the shoreline zone, when that went in, it's making a lot of changes to how we allow residential dwelling units in our single family zones. If you want, Mr. Chairman, I can quickly run through some of the changes in the code. Okay. So one of the changes is to the accessory dwelling units. Councils will recall that you put this into already, it's in the code already from at least 2 years ago that we put this through. But now the state law has changed it slightly that that they do not have to follow minimum parking requirements, and also that they can be rented for less than 30 days in this case. And then in urban residence 1, this is probably the district that is having the most changes, that a one-family detached dwelling is still allowed on a 5,000 square foot lot. But the change is if the lot is inside the growth boundary, you recall that we dedicated a growth boundary that basically follows, with some exceptions, where water and sewer is available in the city. And if the lot is inside the growth boundary, if no dwelling exists on the lot, up to 4 units would be allowed. But that 4 units, you would need a 20,000 square foot lot to have those 4 units on it. If a dwelling unit exists on the lot, up to 2 additional units would be allowed, 1 being attached to or within the existing dwelling and 1 being detached. Again, the key is that you need 5,000 square feet of property for each dwelling unit that you place on the property. If 2 dwelling units exist on the lot, no additional units are allowed. If the dwelling units are demolished after the date of this ordinance is adopted and the demolition results in an empty lot, there can be no increase in the number of units above what was existing on the lot prior to demolition. And that was to close one of the loopholes that came out in committee, about people demolishing housing stock and then putting out 4 units. So that addresses that. In the other districts like URD2, which allows already 4 families on larger lots, the change there is that an affordable housing density bonus would be allowed, which allows 1.5 times the density that would otherwise be allowed. But again, that is over 50% of the units would have to be made affordable by deed if it's a condo or an affordable housing project, or it would have to be rented to somebody in the low mod income range. And that same density bonus is proposed to be added in the multifamily district, the neighborhood service district, the urban service district, the low density district, the high density district, and both shopping and personal service district, and the general commercial and service district. In the rural district, it's a little bit different because most of the rural district, as you may recall from the comprehensive plan, conversations are outside of the growth boundary. There are exceptions to that. There are some areas on Union Street that are within the growth boundary, but most of it is outside the growth boundary. So again, the requirement for that, if it's outside the growth boundary, is if no dwelling unit exists on a lot, up to 2 units are allowed, either detached or attached. If one dwelling unit already exists on the lot, up to 2 additional units are allowed, one being attached to or within the existing dwelling and one being detached. And if 2 dwelling units already exist on a lot in rural residence outside the growth boundary, then no additional units are allowed. And again, the demolition loophole applies in the rural district as well. And then there's some changes to some of the definitions about affordability and making sure that there's a long-term affordability covenant that's attached to it, a 30-year covenant that gets monitored. And we made some other, just to clarify what density bonus means, what, non-conforming situations mean, all of those things. Because again, just another clarification is this doesn't apply if you have a non-conforming lot. So if you have an undersized lot that, once met zoning and no longer meet zoning, you have that non-conforming protection, but you will not be able to have the provisions of LD 2003.
Thank you. Thank you for the update.
Sharon, can I ask a question?
City Solicitor.
And on the affordable housing density part of the LD 2003, I think you said that it involves requiring increasing it when the qualifications are there up to, I think you said 1.5 times the density.
Yeah.
For it's 2.5 times.
Oh, it's 2.5 times. I'm sorry. I misspoke. Thank you for clarifying.
And could you clarify whether there are any limitations, exemptions, or the impact of any of these changes on historic districts as compared to the other residential districts you cited?
Yeah, in the historic district, if you were making any changes to, the outside of a building to add a dwelling unit or an accessory dwelling unit, you would still have to go for a certificate of appropriateness with the Historic Preservation Commission. That relief did not, it was discussed at committee at the state level, but they didn't make any changes to it. So that still applies.
Is there a motion? There was a motion, there was a second.
Yes.
Questions, comments? Councilor Trumbull?
Thank you. I just think I should explain, I plan to vote against this. It's a lot of work that went into it by the staff. They did a great job. It's a great ordinance. Ann and the city solicitor and the planning board, but it's a principle. I don't think the state should be telling us what we need to do for zoning. That's why I'm voting against it. If the state did half the job they did on telling us how we should have this zoning, on helping us with the homeless situation, helping us with the opiate situation, we'd be a lot better off, but they think it's their role to tell us how to zone in the city of Bangor. It's not the state's role, so I'll be voting against us. Thank you.
You can highlight on that.
Yeah.
LD 2003, is there any kind of a regional credit authority helping out with an issue like this with regard to New England's? Or is it all just state and city governance?
LD 2003 state.
But there's no other attached regional credit authority. Okay, maybe it's something the city can look into, because I think, we're using all this technology seems to be fountaining out of Boston, and there's too much bullying going on up in Orono. And if there were less bullying in Orono, projects like this could be more efficient and economically fruitful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Joe Pickering.
You live where, Joe?
What'd you say?
Where do you live?
Where do I live?
Yeah.
13th Pond Street, Bangor.
Thank you.
The first thing I want is, I want to ask you to read what I wrote, to you. And I have many more emails that I've sent to the planning board. And why did I do that? Because I see that as my responsibility as a citizen. And I honestly feel that the planning board didn't pay all that much attention. I'm not even sure they got all of them, or I know they got one of them. But I'd like to ask you to read that. I'm not going to make any comments regarding the Bangor Historic Commission meeting Thursday, because I'm going to be speaking on that. But I think that Mr. Tremble's suggestion or comment about the state, I think is an outstanding example of the state doing things and not relating to the city. So I would like to suggest that there be an invitation from the Bangor City Council to our Bangor area residents, to our Bangor area legislators, to allow the city, the people, the residents of Bangor to do a question and answer. Why should we do that? Because we should do that because the comprehensive plan, some of the comprehensive plan is based on under 1% survey. I think it was Augusta had 10%. There's a lot of hard work going on with our staff, and I know that, but I think that we really should get our legislators to recognize that when they make decisions that impact the city, that they ought to do it in reverse. They should have been talking with you folks. Also, I've got the Freedom of Information request. I'm keeping Debbie busy, on about concerns that I have, and I'm going to be presenting that at the meeting Thursday. But I think that also that I'm really concerned. I've seen a process that needs to be improved, and I'll just make a comment. The mission statement, I'll just read briefly the mission statement of the planning board. And one of the things it says, the primary mission of the planning board is to promote and implement city policies, great, and programs that conserve public resources, great, preserve community character and enhance citizens' quality of life. And then it goes on. I think the process, the citizen input should be equal to city employees and contractors. And I honestly don't believe that is accurate, and based upon what I've read into the Freedom of Information. But anyway, I'll stop there. In terms of, there is a reference there about the growth area. No, I would say it's the overgrown area, and I think it's essential that when we talk about a comprehensive plan, that we really do it comprehensively. Now, it's very difficult for all of you present, as well as the staff here, to try to correct the past that hasn't the past. For example, what we're doing now, we're restricting somewhat significantly, I think, a kind of dividing Bangor not in two, but the rural areas and the growth areas. I call it the overgrown areas. And I just think that we need to have an objective, a statement in there a goal in there that works to try to correct the past rather than overdoing, overemphasizing, overbuilding in our various areas. And I think I'll stop there. I talked enough and I'm sorry. Actually, I'm not sorry.
We have a motion, we have a second.
I just. My name is Deborah Garcia. I live at 29 Bates Street in Bangor. And I thank you, Mr. Kremble, for your comments very much. They echo mine. I think the state has overreached. The state should not be telling communities how to handle their problems. We are all communities that have separate characters, and we need to figure out how to do it within our own communities. I'm also quite upset that my district, which is the single family home district, is going to be turned into, and this, I don't think it's been mentioned, it's being rezoned. Okay, let's call it what it is. It's not, changing the particulars in order to increase housing. It's rezoning it. It's now not single family, it's multifamily. And that's wrong, because the people that bought into those zones bought there because it was single family or it was whatever it was. The state should not be coming in and telling us now, oh, sorry, it doesn't matter what you thought or what, your plans were when you bought your house to raise your family in a neighborhood like this. We're going to change it. We're going to recharacterize our town, our neighborhoods, and this is wrong. This is going to erode Bangor's character over time. It's not going to be right away, but it will be. And we need to think about the future. Okay? I sympathize with if there's a housing crisis. I kind of doubt that there is really. I looked on Trulia today. There are 61 rentals available in Bangor at this today. That doesn't sound like a housing crisis to me. So what are we doing? It doesn't make any sense to me. And I know the state has come in and said, you will do this. We have legislated it. Now you must do it. So you're in a position, I don't blame you guys. You're in a position where you have to do it. But I think there has to be some pushback. Somebody has to go to the state and say, this is wrong. Maybe that's a lawsuit. I don't know. But we can't have the state coming in and telling us what to do. It's wrong. Okay. It really is. We took 2 years to do the comprehensive plan. There were public hearings, there were meetings, there were all kinds of things going on. And then the state comes in and says, you will do this by this date, regardless. No hearings, nothing. That was it. And a lot of us in Bangor didn't even hear about it. There was no mass mailing or anything of that sort. The press doesn't cover it anymore. So anyway, those are my comments.
Thank you. Any other comments? We'll do a roll call vote.
Councilor Babbitt,
Yes.
Councilor Hawes,
Yes.
Councilor Pelletier,
Yes.
Councilor Schaefer,
Yes.
Councilor Sprague,
Yes.
Councilor Trumbull,
No.
Yakamaga,
Yes.
Councilor Poirier,
So
6 yes, 2 no.
ordinance 23-258 has passage.
23-259 ordinance, amending chapter 165, land development code district map to rezone property located at 54 Webster Avenue from urban residence 1 district URD 1 to urban residence 2 district URD 2. Councilor Pelletier.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Move passage of ordinance 23-259.
Second,
This ordinance will amend chapter 165 land development code district map to rezone property located at 54 Webster Avenue from urban residence 1 district URD 1 to urban residence 2 district URD 2. The applicant is seeking a zone change for the property at map lot 014-101 located at 54 Webster Avenue from the urban residence 1 district URD 1 to the urban residence 2 district URD 2. The total area requested to be changed is approximately 0.19 acres and is shown in the attached exhibit. The change to the URD2 district would allow for 3 dwelling units on the property versus the current 1 unit allowed by the URD1 zone. The neighborhood primarily consists of URD1 with some NSD lots nearby adjacent to Hammond Street. There are several legally non-conforming multi-unit dwellings in the vicinity of this property. This area is within the growth boundary shown in the 2022 comprehensive plan, and the future land use map in the plan shows this area is consisting of medium to high density neighborhoods surrounding the downtown and encompassing most of the city's historic residential areas. This item was reviewed and recommended for passage by a vote of 6 in favor and 1 against by the planning board on September 5, 2023.
We have a motion, we have a second, questions, comments? Roll call vote.
Councilor Dodd,
Yes.
Councilor Hahn,
Yes.
Councilor Pelletier,
Yes.
Councilor Schaefer,
Yes.
Councilor Sprague,
No.
Councilor Trumbull,
Yes.
Councilor Yakabaga,
Yes.
Councilor Fournier,
Yes.
7 yes, 1 no.
Ordinance 23-259 has passed.
23-260 ordinance amending chapter 165 land development code district map to rezone a portion of the property located at 79 14th Street from urban residence 1 district URD1 to urban service district USD. Councilor Trumbull.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. Chairman, I move for passage of ordinance 23-260.
Second.
This ordinance amends chapter 165 of Land Development Code District Map to rezone a portion of property located at 79 14th Street from URD 1 to Urban Service District. The applicant is seeking a zone change for a portion of the property at map lot 20-13, located at 79 14th Street, from the URD 1 to the Urban Service District. The total area requested to be changed is approximately 0.15 acres and is shown in the exhibit. The current zoning limits the property to primarily single-family residential, while the change to USD would allow for various commercial uses such as offices, restaurants, retail, and service businesses, as well as mixed commercial residential uses. The neighborhood primarily consists of URD1, but the adjacent parcel is zoned USD as well as several others at the intersection of 14th and Union. This area is within the growth boundary as shown in the 2022 comprehensive plan and the future land use map and the plan. Shows this area is including limited commercial and institutional uses that are complementary to the surrounding residential uses. This was reviewed and unanimously recommended for passage by the planning board at September 5th meeting.
We have a motion, we have a second. Questions, comments? Do a roll call vote.
Councilor Davitt,
Yes.
Councilor Haas,
Yes.
Councilor Pelletier,
Yes.
Councilor Schaefer,
Yes.
Councilor Sprague,
Yes.
Councilor Trumbull,
Yes.
Councilor Yakabaga,
Yes.
Councilor Fournier,
Yes.
8 yes, 0 no.
Ordinance 23-260 has passed.
261 ordinance amending chapter 165 land development code district map to rezone property located at 128 and 130 Hammond Street from contract downtown development district, contract DDD, downtown development district DDD. Councilor Schaefer.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I move passage of ordinance 23-261.
Second.
Oh, I'm sorry. This ordinance will amend chapter 165 land development code district map to rezone property located at 128 and 130 Hammond Street from contract downtown development district, contract DDD to downtown development district DDD. The applicant is seeking a zone change for the property at map lot 042087 located at 128 and 130 Hammond Street to remove the contract conditions from the property zoning and to be zoned as only DDD. The total area requested to be changed is approximately 0.15 acres and is shown in the attached exhibit. The current contract conditions state that no alcoholic beverages shall be sold on the property and non-residential uses shall be limited to 6,200 square feet. This zone change will remove those restrictions. The downtown development district generally allows for a wide range of commercial uses, including restaurants, bars, retail stores, offices, and others. The neighborhood primarily consists of DVB, MNSD, and GNISD lots. This area is within the growth boundary shown in the 2022 comprehensive plan, and the future land use map in the plan shows this as the downtown area consisting of a high-density mixed-use development area that is inclusive of central business district functions, commercial uses, municipal and institutional uses, and high-density residential development. This item was reviewed and unanimously recommended for passage by the planning board September 5th, 2023.
We have a motion, we have a second. Questions, comments? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Council Devitt,
Yes.
Council Hawes,
Yes.
Council Pelletier,
Yes.
Council Schaefer,
Yes.
Council Sprague,
Yes.
Council Trumbull,
Yes.
Council Yakabaga,
Yes.
Council Fournier,
Yes.
8 yes, 0 no.
Ordinance 23-261 has passed. New business.
Hearing application for special amusement permit of Global Spectrum LP doing business as Cross Insurance Center, 515 Main Street, Council Hall.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I would move to open the public hearing for the application for special amusement permit of Global Spectrum doing business as Cross Insurance.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Roll call vote.
Council Devitt,
Yes.
Council Hawes,
Yes.
Council Pelletier,
Yes.
Council Schaefer,
Yes.
Council Sprague,
Yes.
Council Trumbull,
Yes.
Council Yakabaga,
Yes.
Council Fournier,
Yes.
8 yes, 0 no.
Public hearing is now open.
Seeing no one approach, I would move to close the public hearing.
Use this. Michael Norton, I think you guys should reject all the queries for the amusements votes until the SAG-AFTRA and Writers Guild strike is complete. Thank you. Finished.
Seeing no others, I would move to close the public hearing for the Cross Insurance Center.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Roll call vote.
Council Devitt,
Yes.
Council Hawes,
Yes.
Council Pelletier,
Yes.
Council Schaefer,
Yes.
Council Sprague,
Yes.
Council Trumbull,
Yes.
Council Yakabaga,
Yes.
Council Fournier,
Yes.
8 yes, 0 no.
Public hearing is now closed.
I would move approval of the application for special amusement permit of Global Spectrum doing business as Cross Insurance Center.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Roll call vote.
Council Devitt,
Yes.
Council Hawes,
Yes.
Council Pelletier,
Yes.
Council Schaefer,
Yes.
Council Sprague,
Yes.
Council Trumbull,
Yes.
Council Yakabaga,
Yes.
Council Fournier,
Yes.
8 yes, 0 no.
The application has passed.
Public hearing application for special amusement permit on 81 Park Street LLC doing business as the Charity, 81 Park Street, Council Hawes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I would move to open the public hearing for the special amusement permit of the Charitine. Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Roll call vote.
Council Devitt,
Yes.
Council Hawes.
Yes.
Council Pelletier,
Yes.
Council Schaefer,
Yes.
Council Sprague,
Yes.
Council Trumbull,
Yes.
Council Yakabaga,
Yes.
Council Fournier,
Yes.
8 yes, 0 no.
Public hearing is now open.
Seeing no one approach, I would move to close the public hearing. Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Roll call vote.
Council Devitt,
Yes.
Council Hawes,
Yes.
Council Pelletier,
Yes.
Council Schaefer,
Yes.
Council Sprague,
Yes.
Council Trumbull,
Yes.
Council Yakabaga,
Yes.
Council Fournier,
Yes.
8 yes, 0 no.
Public hearing is closed.
I would move passage of the application for special amusement permit of the Charitine at 81 Park Street. Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Roll call vote.
Council Devitt,
Yes.
Council Hawes.
Yes.
Council Pelletier,
Yes.
Council Schaefer,
Yes.
Council Sprague,
Yes.
Council Trumbull,
Yes.
Council Yakabaga,
Yes.
Council Fournier,
Yes.
8 yes, 0 no.
The application is passed.
23-272, order authorizing contract with Benchmark for City Hall renovations in the amount of $8,910,000. Council Hawes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. This order will authorize a contract with Benchmark for City Hall renovations in the amount of $8,910,000. The city issued a competitive bid process for the City Hall renovations, which includes a complete renovation and remodel of the first floor, a new elevator, new boilers, and new HVAC system throughout the building. The city received 2 responses. The base bids of each are as follows. Benchmark Construction, $9,340,000. Bowman Construction, $10,156,000.
Each bid also included alternates, which could add or subtract from the total. The city intends to, intends to utilize the limited phasing alternate deduction by relocating staff from the building. Benchmark proposed a $300,000 for this reduction and Bowman proposed $200,000. With Benchmark being the low bidder, sorry, staff reached out to them regarding the phase-in deduction and they agreed to increase the deduction to $430,000, resulting in a final bid of $8,910,000. The estimated construction timeline is 18 months. Staff is recommending the contract be awarded to Benchmark Construction, the low bidder, in the amount of $8,910,000. This item was reviewed and recommended for passage at the Finance Committee meeting on September 6, 2023. I would move passage of order 23-272.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Questions, comments? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Councilor Davitt,
Yes.
Councilor Hawes,
Yes.
Councilor Pelletier,
Yes.
Councilor Schaefer,
Yes.
Councilor Sprague,
Yes.
Councilor Trimble,
Yes.
Councilor Yakabaga,
Yes.
Councilor.
Yes.
Yes, 0,
Order 23-272 has passage.
23-273, order authorizing the award of $500,000 in state and local fiscal recovery funds to support First Shot Sober Living for acquisition of property located at 107th Street. Councilor Yakabaga.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I move the passage of order 23-273.
Second.
Thank you. This order will authorize the award of $500,000 in state and local fiscal recovery funds, aka ARPA funds, to Fresh Start Sober Living to acquire 100 Center Street. The purpose of the property is to provide high-quality recovery housing and support services for individuals with substance use disorder and to expand access to behavioral health care medication assisted treatment, which includes 5 one-bedroom apartments, on-site medically assisted treatment, and 2-bedroom units for social detox. Fresh Start Sober Living supports individuals who are active in their recovery and are in need of support and housing to maintain their sobriety. Fresh Start currently operates 14 sober living homes, 12 of which are in Bangor and are home to 112 individuals in recovery. As a part of the application review process, Fresh Start provided financing data that indicated a partial award of funding in the amount of $500,000 would allow this project to move forward. Further, they worked with their financial institution to allow for the city to take a subordinate debt position to ensure the funding would support the project as outlined in the application process. This award is in support of the following: investment in affordable communal recovery housing, investment in substance use disorder treatment and recovery. This item was reviewed at a council workshop on August 28, 2023.
We have a motion, we have a second. Questions, comments? Roll call vote.
Councilor Davitt,
Yes.
Councilor Hawes,
Yes.
Councilor Pelletier,
No.
Councilor Schaefer,
Yeah.
Councilor Sprague,
Yes.
Councilor Trimble,
Yes.
Councilor Yakabaga,
Yes.
Councilor Fortier,
Yes.
7 yes, 1 no.
Order 23-273 has passage.
23-274, order authorizing the award of $50,000 in state and local fiscal recovery funds to support literacy volunteers of Bangor's efforts to create greater adult self-sufficiency and a ready workforce initiative. Councilor Davitt.
Thank you. I move passage of order 23-274.
Second.
Thank you. This order will authorize the award of $50,000 in state and local fiscal recovery funds, aka ARPA funds, to literacy volunteers of Bangor, LVV, to support their initiative to create greater adult self-sufficiency and a ready workforce. LVB offers an inexpensive solution that strengthens the education and workplace skills of adult students, primarily within Penobscot County. Approximately 37% of the students are Bangor residents, and nearly 30% of the students identify as unemployed and seeking employment. The work of LVB relies significantly on community volunteers, tutors, to fulfill their mission. The recruitment, training, and matching students to volunteers and the necessary support of them requires significant staff coordination. This award is in support of the following: one-time funding that will support operating costs of a nonprofit to overcome the negative impacts experienced as a result of the pandemic. This award will provide funding to support LVB's work to enhance workplace skills within our region. This item was recommended at a council workshop on August 28th, 2023.
We have a motion, we have a second. Questions, comments? Roll call vote.
Councilor Gabbard?
Yes.
Councilor Hawes?
Yes.
Councilor Pelletier?
Yes.
Councilor Schaefer?
Yes.
Councilor Sprague?
Yes.
Councilor Campbell?
Yes.
Councilor Yakabaga?
Yes.
Councilor Fornia?
Yes.
8 yes, 0 no.
Order 23-274 has passage.
23-275 order authorizing the award of $2,484,880 in state and local fiscal recovery funds to the Penobscot Community Health Center to expand and renovate Hope House Shelter. Councilor Pelletier.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Move passage of order 23-275.
Second.
This order will authorize the award of $2,484,800 in state and local fiscal recovery funds, aka ARPA funds, to Penobscot Community Health Center, PCHC, to expand and renovate the Hope House shelter. Hope House operates as a low barrier shelter in a facility that was built in 1977. This project would expand the facility footprint and allow operations to return to their pre-pandemic capacity of 66 beds, an increase of 12 beds from the current post-pandemic level. The renovations would also include replacement of an aged HVAC system for adequate heating and cooling, more bathroom and shower facilities, enlarged dining area, which increases the capacity of life safety access from 12 to 24, the addition of 4 flex beds in case of quarantine or other individual needs, all of which will enhance the efficiency and safety of the operation for both the guests and staff. The proposed award amount is less than the application, as PCHC can apply for $200,000 in forgivable debt from the Maine State Housing Authority. Additionally, a $90,000 request to purchase vans to support the various needs of guests and staff was referred to our Community Development Block Grant Program for the potential funding. Further, any expansion of the footprint of the facility will require an amendment to the city's code of ordinance that would designate the allowable zoning districts for the operation of an emergency shelter, which was most recently reviewed at the Business and Economic Development Committee meeting of September 5th, 2023. This award is in support of the following: investment in facilities to support disproportionately impacted communities, affordable community recovery housing, investment in access to substance use disorder treatment and recovery and mental health services, investment in public health measures in a congregate setting. This item was reviewed at a council workshop on August 28th, 2023.
We have a motion, we have a second. Questions, comments? Councilor Sprague?
Yeah, I'd just like to make a couple of comments on this. I think Penobscot Community Health Center provides an extremely valuable service in this facility, and I have no doubts that the facility can justify, or the improvements in the facility are justified in order to improve the treatment capacity and to bring the facility back to its pre-COVID capacity. I do not agree with the funding for this project. Almost all of the funding is requested that the city fund this using ARPA funds. And I think that this is a project which is not just a city project, but is a state project, and the city providing the funding to such a large extent essentially absolves the state from taking more responsibility for this population, which is very highly in need. So I believe that we could partially fund this with the state providing more funds, but to fully fund it denies us the opportunity of applying more of the ARPA funds to other worthy projects and spreading the impact of the ARPA dollars more broadly in the community. And I don't believe that this level of funding is justified for this project solely based on the ARPA funds.
Councilor Trimble?
Well, I agree with the comments of Council Sprague. A lot of this should fall on the state. If we're going to wait for the state to fund this, we'll be waiting a long time. I think this is exactly the type of project the ARPA funds were intended for. And it is a lot of money, but I have no problem fully supporting this. This is exactly, in my opinion, what the funds were intended for. The fact that we're 3.5 years out now, from the beginning of the pandemic. And we're still trying to figure out how to spend these funds is ridiculous to me. It's nobody's fault here, but it's ridiculous. So it shows that we didn't really need all these funds in Bangor, but it's great that we have these to spend. I mean, early on, within 30 days of the pandemic with the shutdown, we had the payroll protection plan was out. Everybody had the money that needed it. And it was a quick solution to a bad problem. But now 3.5 years later, we're still trying to figure out how to spend this money. So I think this is what it was meant for. But the fact that we're still trying to spend millions of dollars at this point is ridiculous. Thank you.
No other comments? Roll call vote.
Councilor Gabbard,
Yes.
Councilor Hawes,
Yes.
Councilor Pelletier,
Yes.
Councilor Schaefer,
Yes.
Councilor Spray,
No,
Councilor Trumbull,
Yes.
Councilor Yakabaga,
Yes.
Councilor Fournier,
No.
6 yes, 2 no.
Order 23-275 has passage.
23-276, order authorizing execution of a development agreement and a tax revenue and credit enhancement agreement with Penquist Inc. for property at Milford Street Extension Phase 2. Councilor Trumbull.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. Chairman, I move passage of order 23-276.
Second.
This will authorize execution of a credit enhancement agreement with Penquist for the development of property located in Milford Place. Should the property be awarded a 9% low income tax credit by the Maine State Housing Authority. The agreement includes provisions for the developer's investment, timeline for completion, and a credit enhancement agreement of 75% for up to 30 years to address a gap in project financing. It will also enhance the competitiveness of the project to be awarded 9% LITC funding. This project is phase 2 of a development of housing at this location. Phase 1 was elderly housing. Phase 2 is a 40-unit family housing project. The land development application was approved on June 1st, 2023 by the planning board. As with phase 1 of the project, Penquist structured the financial package using all available instruments, including LIHTC from the Maine State Housing Authority, using for a for-profit entity. This was reviewed and recommended by the Business and Economic Development Committee meeting on September 5th.
We have a motion. We have a second. Questions, comments? Being none, roll call vote.
Councilor Gabbard,
Yes.
Councilor Hawes,
Yes.
Councilor Pelletier,
Yes.
Councilor Schaefer,
Yes.
Councilor Spray,
yes,
Councilor Trumbull,
Yes.
Councilor Yakabaga,
Yes.
Councilor Fournier,
Yeah.
8 yes, 0 no.
Order 23-276 has passage. That brings us to the end of the meeting. Staff is already waving goodbye. Councilor Schaefer.
Yeah, so I have never forgotten to read the item on the agenda, but the reason why is because I was still kind of speechless from somebody saying that there's no housing issue in Bangor, because it's like completely gobsmacking, and I was doing math. So just a little quick math. I looked at Trulia while I was sitting here. I took the first 14 apartments that showed up. The average rent for an apartment or a house in Bangor right now is $1,642 based on the first 14 that show up on the page. Median income in Bangor for a household is $47,000. 1642 is 42%. Note that this includes a $900 efficiency apartment, which is one room with a sink. And if you are single, like I was, when I first moved to Bangor and I had my own apartment, it was $350, heat and hot water. It was beautiful. I loved it. I could not have afforded an apartment if with the median income of $26,953. That 1642 would be 73% of my entire income for the year to live. So there may be 61 apartments available, but there are not people that can afford those. Not everyone can afford those 61 apartments. And so just the idea that just because there's apartments are available just shows that, and why aren't people just renting them, just shows the absolute privilege and ignorance of the issue that is the housing issue. And I'm talking about, I know professional people, single women, single moms who got married, had kids, got divorced, went to look for an apartment, and they are trying to make ends meet just to have a safe, clean apartment for them and their kids. There is absolutely a housing issue, which is why I 1000% supported expanding housing. And I live in UID1. I want an ADU in my backyard for my parents in a few years, probably, because we also have a huge issue coming up with the lack of caregiving for our boomer parents. So that'll be coming down the pike and that'll hit everyone real fast. But anyway, that's why I didn't immediately read my little synopsis, because I just was doing math in my head and completely mind blown that someone would think we had no housing crisis in Bangor. We do. Anyway, with that, good night.
Council Pelletier.
Good night.
Council Trumbull.
I did no math. Good night.
Council Diakon.
I want to say a couple of things, please. So as we recognize the lives lost at the abhorrent attacks on our nation on 9/11, the sacrifices of our first responders and the thousands others, the traumas experienced by friends, loved ones, and everyone who witnessed the horrific attacks, I want to stress that there is no place for hate. I want to take this occasion as a moment to reflect and honor on the lives lost, and to take a moment to think of this as an occasion to bring us together rather than to like separate us from the goals to unite this nation. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. Councilor Hawes.
Good night.
Councilor Sprague.
I thank Councilor Yakubaga for her comments, and I would agree with them. Thank you and good night.
I will say good night, and we are adjourned.
Council Chair, you're gonna unadjourn, sorry.
I don't know how I would have missed you. Councilor Depp.
She's on the wall.
Giant head on the wall. Thank you. I did want to say a couple things. First, I really want to emphatically thank Councilor Pelletier for her very quick response to the anti-Semitic racist comments that were spewed right at the beginning of our meeting. You said exactly what I feel comfortable saying our entire council agrees with. And I mean, honestly, I'd like to write it down after and post it, because you were spot on what we don't stand for racism, and we don't stand for anti-Semitism, and we don't stand for homophobia. That's just not what our council does. We may disagree on any number of issues, but I never fear that there's going to be just direct hatred to me as a woman, to our members of council who are people of color, that we make all sorts of problems and all sorts of mistakes. But I know that we are united as a council that loves our community and doesn't stand for white supremacy or for Nazism. I also, on the uplifting topics continue, I just want to remind folks that it's both National Recovery Month and Suicide Awareness Month. For National Recovery Month on September 23rd, there's Recovery Palooza going on in the waterfront in Bangor, which I encourage everyone to go to. It's just an amazing event, and to support folks who are in recovery is part of what we do to help people keep people alive. And then for Suicide Awareness Month, I try to continually be open as someone who has attempted suicide, and I've appreciated the support that I hear in return. And I hope that the more and more people that are able to be safely open about what they've gone through, the more we see that it's in every aspect of our communities. Every person in some ways is affected by suicide. And I would say for that, there is a number to call, 988. If you're struggling, if you know someone who is struggling, you can also call 211 for substance use support. So with that, I wish everyone a safe and healthy good night.
I apologize again, Councilor Davitt. But now it's official.